All right, we should be good to go.
All right. What's today? Happy Saturday, everybody. Today is Saturday, the 22nd of December, 2018. Welcome back to the Oil Drop Podcast. My name is James. With me today, it's just Adam at this time.
Ah,
Arun will be joining us shortly. We'll see whether or not he manages to make it. Yeah, let's just jump right into it, I guess. With the Oilers specifically, what we've seen here is a pretty significant drop off with the defense. So Klefbom and Russell both been injured here. Caleb Jones has been recalled from the AHL. Do you think that Klefbom's absence has affected the team more than you anticipated, and how do you think that it affects the team moving forward?
um, I don't want to say more than anticipated. Actually, it was kind of funny. We were talking about the last podcast. Arun was mentioning how Clefbaum was not getting as much recognition as he should be. I think, unfortunately, it started to be just before he got injured. He was starting to put up points and starting to get recognized as the workhorse he's been. But our defense isn't deep. You could argue we have three top four defensemen, Chris Russell on a given night, and then five seventh defensemen.
I was gonna say, yeah,
Yeah, it's not encouraging if the best defenseman gets injured. A lot of people are freaking out right now because Adam Larson wasn't at practice yesterday,
hmm
which is devastating if we have both of them out. But we haven't heard any call ups or anything yet, so that might just be he needed a rest day. Um, obviously, Clefbaum's out 6 to 8 weeks, which is not great.
yeah, it's a broken finger, right?
Broken pinky finger.
Yeah, I
Has
know.
surgery on it.
Yeah, oh, he had surgery.
That's why he's out so long.
Oh my God.
Yep.
What? That must have been a pretty serious break. I actually didn't see too much detail about it, but I guess if he had surgery, then that kind of speaks for itself. Yeah, I don't know. Like, I guess I'm thinking the same thing. Arun kind of mentioned it last time. Like you said, he's not really getting the recognition that he deserves, and the offensive game was really just starting to find it was really just starting to get going for him. And it sucks because when he's healthy, Clefbaum is like the number one defenseman on the team, and I just feel like year in year out we can't really count on him to be healthy, and it's super frustrating. The guy is like 25 now. He got drafted in 2011, first rounder, same as Nuge, and he's only had one really full healthy season in his entire career since being drafted, and that's super frustrating. It's like a combination of bad luck with his stuff. Like the injuries, they don't even make me think that he's injury prone. It's just like freak accidents all the time.
That seems to be the recurring theme with Oilers and their injuries. It's like everyone was saying that Nuge was injury prone for a while, and that Everly was injury prone, and Hall was injury prone. And I mean, some of them, attributed to Hall was his style of play. He was obviously very gung ho and throw himself around. Everly was deemed soft. Nuge was deemed soft. But Clefbaum genuinely seems to get the worst luck. Like,
Mm-hmm.
his ankle, obviously, he blocked a shot. Had to get the surgery on it, and then got a staph infection, which is just
Yeah.
brutal. He missed a
Yeah.
ton of time with that.
That's not.
And then this one, he just blocked a shot. Like, he didn't go down for it to hit him.
Yeah, like that could have happened literally to anybody.
So it's unfortunate, and relying on him to be healthy isn't necessarily something we want to do, but it's something we have to do.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, he's not. Hopefully, he's back sooner rather than later. But what do you think of Caleb Jones so far?
Um, he's held his own, I think. God, what's he played? 2 games?
Yes.
Yeah, I think I only watched the first one. Who did they play in that first game? It was the one before St. Louis.
Listen,
He wasn't
mm,
bad. I mean, he was really tentative because, first career NHL game. I think he really just wanted to make the safe play all the time. But he hasn't been bad. I think he got an assist in the St. Louis game as well.
he got St. Louis was the last one, and then before that it was Vancouver.
Was it Vancouver?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
So,
so I don't think he's been bad, but I mean, he's no Klefbom replacement, that's for sure.
mm,
Um, yeah, I think I wish that they brought him up with a healthy Klefbom still there, because I mean, I think that he could really just benefit from playing third line minutes at this point. I think that he's ready. I mean, he's the offensive production at the AHL level is first line level.
mm,
And the minutes that he's playing at the AHL, you know, the defensive zone minutes, it's first line level in the AHL, aka it's time for him to make the jump to the NHL, at least as a third line defenseman, I think, third pairing defenseman. So yeah, I guess to answer your question, like he's been good, not spectacular, but I don't think anyone really expected spectacular. So
his skating, I think, has been the biggest standout so far. Is that
mm,
he hasn't looked. The biggest thing for young defensemen, I think, nowadays is that you can come into the NHL at a young age, and if your skating is up to the level it needs to be, you look less
yeah,
out of place.
yeah,
Because we look at Matt Banning, his first season, great skater, kind of covered up a lot of his mistakes, and then moving forward, when he started playing more minutes, you can kind of see what's exposed. So Caleb Joe starting out just skating well is a good start. Um, Now, are you a bit curious as to why they didn't bring Bear up instead of Jones?
I think it's just because Bear hasn't been as good as Jones. And the Oilers are not in any sort of position to be picky, like pick and choose over which prospects they want to develop. They are in a dogfight to make it to the playoffs this year. And I think Chiarelli, his job probably depends on it. Hashtag segue. But yeah, I don't think that they're in a position to be picky about who they're trying to develop. They just need points, and I think short-term Jones is probably the better choice than Bear.
Before moving on,
He's played well
yeah.
too.
Do you have any thoughts about Jones's replacement and Klefbom's impact departing?
Look, I've covered it pretty extensively when we've had conversation about it, but Klefbom departing for essentially 6 to 8 weeks basically means we are free falling out of the playoffs. He is so monumentally important to the entire structure of this team doing well that it really can't be stated enough the significance that he has on the team. And I think at the end of the day, it just becomes a matter of, we'll have to figure it out as it goes. And we'll have to try to accommodate with guys like Caleb Jones, with guys like, especially, it just comes down to Nurse, most importantly. But, excuse me, at the end of the day, I think very clearly we're seeing we don't want to see Benning and Gravel get so many more minutes, but we don't have a choice in that matter. And that's pretty much like what's going on. I think Caleb Jones can really step up, and I think he's been doing well. It just becomes that Klefbom still played like 25 to 30 minutes a night, and we're just losing that, and there's nothing we can do about it.
I think Klefbom was in the top 10 of average time on ice
He
in the
was
NHL.
fourth
Yep.
among all players for average time on ice. He also has the record among all defensemen at 4 games with the most number of 30-minute nights in the league.
So, not great. All right, so we kind of skipped over James's beautiful segue there, but Peter Chiarelli appears to have his job saved if he makes the playoffs, according to Bob Nicholson, who came out last week and said that he would absolutely stand by Peter Chiarelli if the Oilers make the playoffs this year. Meaning that basically Wynn and Chiarelli's job is safe for another year. James, we'll start with you on this one. What do you make of that? Do you think that's a wise move by Nicholson? Do we have any hope?
Bold statements like that at any time is pretty stupid because you have to stand by that. Now you can't change your mind. You have to like double down on that or look like I don't know, like you're flip-flopping or whatever. Like strong statements like that, they're pretty much never a good idea. No. I think if the Oilers make the playoffs, it'll be in spite of Chiarelli, not because of Chiarelli. They're going to be led by the offensive production of Nuge and Draisaitl. Or Nuge, McDavid, and Draisaitl, none of which were drafted by Chiarelli. McDavid was, but that was a gimme. So I think that they'll make the playoffs if they do, in spite of him, not because of him.
Now, what about the praises they've been singing about Koskinen's pickup lately? Do you just got lucky, or do you think that's the scouting department more?
Like that's literally the definition of getting lucky.
Yeah.
Is it not? Like that guy literally stumbled by accident into this actually working out. Like every person with a brain on his head was going like, this really has a really bad chance of not working out. Thank God it did work out.
Yeah.
First and foremost, and second, like you can stumble into a lot of shit. He stumbled into a lot of shit. And then after he's doubled down, he's realized very quickly, like Kassian isn't like a 30-point winger. He's much worse than that.
Yeah, he's like a 10-point agitator.
So for context, Koskinen is 11-4-1 with a 2.18 goals against and 9.28 save percentage. I think that's the best goaltending stats we've had in probably a decade.
Koskinen's
I
think you're really underplaying how good Talbot was, and that's
true. Sorry. 2 years ago, other than Talbot, the concern for me is this reeks of the old boys club again, because we look at the team, and we have Bob Nicholson, who built Team Canada, basically saying that, oh yeah, my buddy's doing a great job. If he makes us, we're fine. Completely ignoring the fact that our cap is fucked and we have no depth. And we're very lucky this year the Pacific was as bad as it was at the start of the season.
And now it's not. It's amazing.
Now everyone's kicking ass again.
I was going to say.
And so for him to go out and say, yeah, Chiarelli's job will be completely safe if we make the playoffs, it very much seems like a old boys club kind of mentality. Like, oh, no, it's okay. As long as we get to the end goal, which isn't even the Stanley Cup for this team, which is the worst part of this all, because it's supposed to be our win now era with the McDavid contracts and Draisaitl contracts, that they're backing up just making the playoffs is okay.
That's where the bench is. Yeah, I mean, God, that sucks to say.
You have the best player on the planet. You have a top 10 NHL scorer on your team. In Draisaitl, top 15, depending on how many people are moving up and down the ladder right now. You have Ryan Nugent-Hopkins who's playing the best hockey of his career.
Fucking amazing hockey cannot be emphasized enough.
There's Koskinen who's playing out his mind right now. Talbot who's starting to get back to normal. And then our defense core has now been neutered. But we have no depth. Milan Lucic is playing fourth line minutes right now, which is where he should be because that's the role he should be playing, ignoring his salary. But you look at all these contracts.
And what's left on his salary, Adam?
Was it another 5 years at $6 million? 5 fucking years?
4 years after this one.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So, and you can look at it, but for all intents and purposes, there's going to be a lockout in 2 years.
Probably.
There's another team entering NHL in 2021, which means we'll lose a player. It could be Kara. It could be another player. We only have 4 players under contract then, right now. Our window of opportunity before we have to rebuild again is closing, and Chiarelli's not the man to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, it's frustrating, like you said. I realized it, but I didn't at the same time because forwards peak early. McDavid and Draisaitl are probably playing the best hockey of their careers right now.
Oh yeah.
And the benchmark that we're trying to reach at is to make the playoffs. No one is thinking that we are a cup contender, but we have the best player on the planet in his fucking prime right now. I don't think McDavid is going to get much better. He's amazing. He's a wizard.
It's hard to get much better than he is.
Unbelievable, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I don't like this is McDavid. He's not going to score 200 points. This is what we got. So I don't know. And just to have the bar at getting to the playoffs a bit depressing, to be frank.
It's indicative of everything that's been around.
And I wanna comment on this because this is something that just gets everyone goes, oh, we'll have to buy out the contract and that kind of thing. But like, really, guys, like, this is one of the worst contracts in the leagues to buy out. To give you an idea about how bad the circumstances is, if we buy it out in the end of this this season, so for next season we're buying him out, the cap hit that he'll have that we'll be paying to no one for the next 4 seasons before it goes down to $625,000 for the next 4 seasons after that is 3.625, 5.625, 4.125, and 5.625, because pretty much 90% of his contract is bonuses, and you can't delay a bonus.
Mm-hmm.
You have to pay the bonus on the year.
That's amazing.
So it's basically, in order to save salary, paid bonuses. Which
You
is
save no salary.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah.
It's cute.
The only way I imagine we get out of this contract is one of 3 ways. He retires, which he won't be doing anytime soon because he's leaving so much money on the table. He's bought out, which would, as Arun just pointed out, would be stupid, monumentally stupid compared for a cap hit. Or 3, he waives his NMC, and we ship him off to Seattle, which I doubt is going to happen as well because he's probably built a life for himself in Edmonton. The only way I imagine he asks for a trade or
look, every
person
and his goddamn dog in Calgary was expecting Troy Brouwer to waive his NMC so he'd go to freaking Calgary. I mean to Vegas.
Yeah,
he didn't do that shit. It's not stupid.
Milan Lucic has no obligation to do it.
Exactly.
And
with Fleury, like, honestly, with Fleury, I would say 100% Fleury was being dumb when he just made that decision.
At the same time, Vegas made the playoffs.
His love for that team overcame like all his other things, but like at the end of the day, any person with a level head could have told you at that time, hey, perhaps the biggest reason why the Penguins did as well as they did was that they could make the playoffs because Murray is injured all the goddamn time.
Mm-hmm. It actually worked better out for Fleury than it did for Pittsburgh, but it was definitely like Fleury was definitely a hard decision. Lucic will not make the same decision. He doesn't have to. Why would he?
That is the good old case of the exception to the rule rather than the rule.
The only advantage I could see for Lucic going there for him personally is that he's closer to his hometown of Vancouver. Because Seattle's only 2 hours from Vancouver. But even then, we're only what, a 3.5 hour flight from Vancouver. Like, we're not that far either. Like he's playing Toronto or something, or Boston again. I don't know. It's just
not to mention the fans that do like him love him.
Yeah, it's like he's like the Matt Benning equivalent, with more grit. It's like it doesn't make any sense to me that it's like a huge split between you hate him or you love him, and there's no in between. And it's the people that love him irrationally love him, people that hate him irrationally hate him. And it's kind of the same with Matt Benning. I see a lot of people, but for me, I'm in the camp that doesn't like Matt Benning, but mostly just because of his play. Milan Lucic seems to be, when he's hated by people, is like hated to the core of his being by people. And it's bit odd.
But that being said, in the offseason this year, people are rationally going, you know what, the player on the Oilers to break out would be Lucic, right?
I mean, the worst part is he came into the best shape of his life. According to him, he lost weight. He improved everything about his game. And right now, to be honest, the effort's there. It's his hands. His hands are just, as whoever fucking went full Monstars on Lucic needs to give him his hands back, because he has no hands anymore. He never really was a finesse player, but at least he had some minute amount of capability to stick handle. He literally looks like the toddler on the ice, which is just like gripping the stick as hard as he can, and the puck's just bouncing off his blade.
Yeah. I see the effort is there with Lucic. That's what's more frustrating than anything, you know? Like, the effort is there, the skill, I guess, is just not there anymore. And I don't know. Whoever was expecting 60 points out of him was probably pretty too optimistic. But, man, I was not expecting him to be on pace for, like, 15, 16 points this year.
Mr. Peter Shirelli with the 60-point estimate. All right, so speaking of Shirelli, it came out recently that Mikko Koskinen is obviously taking over the starting role, and with that, Cam Talbot was on the trade block. It's kind of that we haven't really heard any proposals. We haven't really heard much of that in about 2.5, 3 weeks now. Do you guys think it's a good idea to trade Talbot while his assets was stock is high, or do we hold on to him and run tandem?
Just run both of them this year for a couple of reasons. Number one, I still don't really have full faith in Koskinen yet. Number two, goalies, they don't get you anything in trades. You know, like if we trade Talbot, we're looking at like a mid-round pick maybe. It's just not worth the risk. I mean, if Koskinen really shits the bed, then Talbot should still be a serviceable starter for the rest of this season. And I think he's UFA after this season, and we can probably just let him go.
Mm-hmm. They're both without contracts at the end of the season. So honestly, I think it's a bigger conversation for the end of the season than before. But I remember this path. I remember how this goes, and I remember how this song and dance goes. You guys remember 2007, 2008? We had a goalie tandem of Mathieu Garon and Dwayne Rolson. Mathieu Garon was a career backup. He never really made much of a career in the NHL. The games he played had been minimal. At most, like before that season, in 2004, 2006, he played 52 games in the AHL. He wasn't looking like he'd amount to much. We signed him on as a backup to Dwayne Rolson, and spontaneously out of nowhere, it got us to within a few points out of the playoffs. The only reason we didn't get the playoffs, in my opinion, that season was because he got injured partway into the season. And we had to go back to relying on old faithful Dwayne Rolson. So we go, you know what? We have our goalie for the future. Dwayne Rolson's 35 years old at this point, something like that. 32, I think. And we need to go with someone younger. Mathieu Garon's like 28. We'll go with him. He's the future. Went with Mathieu Garon. Mathieu Garon in the next season put up in 15 games played. Didn't play any more than that. 3.17 and a save percentage of .895. So he went back to being a shitty backup. And the thing I want to emphasize in all of this is that Dwayne Rolson, who then left the team and joined the
Islanders.
Oh, yeah.
No. He stayed with the Oilers, actually. He had one more season with the Oilers before he moved on. He had a .915 and a 2.77 in 63 games started at the age of like 33 at that point. What I'm basically trying to get at here is sometimes the consistency of products is the most important thing. With Talbot, yeah, he hasn't had starter minutes his entire career. He's only had it once. It's like the starter number of games. That being said, like, he's really thrived, and he's really been consistent in the NHL games outside of it. In my opinion, outside of this season, I'm still trusting Talbot as my starter for the future. Maybe that's me being risk-averse, but that being said, I don't think we can go forward with both, especially because Talbot needs to sign it cheaper. He won't, and Koskinen's going to get more expensive.
You know, the funny thing about all this is that Koskinen's played 16 games. And yeah, he had insane stats in the KHL, but the KHL is a very different game. And we saw him take a month to adjust, and the last couple of games he's played well, but okay. To be fair, our defense has been lackadaisical. Cam Talbot in 19 games this season, by the way, a 7-10-2 with a 3.21 goals against, an 8.94 save percentage. So not ideal. Not starting numbers. They're backup numbers at best. The big thing is Koskinen is not a young man. Talbot's 31. Koskinen is 30. So you get rid of Cam Talbot, Koskinen gets injured. We have Dylan Wells in the AHL who is not ready to play backup yet. And then you have nobody. kind of. Starrett, I think, is in this ECHL. But it's very much like what Rune brought up. It's not worth trading Ken Talbot right now because we don't know what Mikko Koskinen is yet. It's a question for the end of the season.
And let's be honest here. No NHL team is looking to change their goaltenders. Like if you look at the trade market for the past 3 trade deadlines, like A, no team that traded for a goaltender did any better, and B, no team was willing to really pay anything for a goaltender.
Yeah.
We're not getting anything.
The trade market for goalies is always it's shit. So it's not worth it for me. But if let's say we let both of them go. I mean, I'm looking at the pending UFA list for goalies, and the only name that really jumps out at me would be Bobrovsky.
We're not going to afford that.
No.
He'll have a bunch of suitors. Yeah, he'll be $6 or $7 million at least, I would say.
And Bobrovsky's not having a good season this year.
He's 31 too, so he's not super young either. Who else? Varlamov, Brian Elliott, Michael Neuwirth, Anders Nilsson, Antti Niemi, Ryan Miller, Chad Johnson, Peter Mrazek.
Whole bunch of nopes.
Robin Lehner, Keith Kincaid, Mike McKenna.
Those are all just guys I just wouldn't want. Like,
I would want Keith Kincaid, but the thing is, Keith Kincaid gets injured all the fucking time.
Yeah, and he's very streaky. The thing we got to look at this offseason is we probably have the 2 best options right now in terms of potential starting goalies for next season.
Mm-hmm.
Who do we choose? Do we run both again? Like, the only way I can imagine us getting better in net right now is if we, if one of our prospects works out.
You can't even bank on that with goalies.
Never. Okay, moving on. World Junior Hockey Championship starts on Boxing Day, which is 4 days from now. James, I think you're probably more the expert on the World Juniors than Arun and I am. But we'll start with Arun apparently. Tournament expectations. Is Canada expected to win gold? Do we always expect them to win gold? Should they win gold this year?
Well, the expectation is always
it's
gold.
A good balanced team. We can make the argument that like they're missing certain players that should be having, but still it's a good balanced team. Great distribution for attack. It can play all roles in attack. The defense is really excellent. The goaltending is, I think it's really nepotistic the way that they choose their goaltenders, but it's there. Let's just put it at that. And at the end of the day, like, it's gold or nothing.
Mm-hmm.
James, who are the key players to watch for this team?
For Canada specifically?
Yeah.
On defense, I think it would be Edmonton's draft pick, Evan Bouchard.
Yeah.
I think he'd be relied on to be pretty much the number 1 defenseman on the team. He'll play in all situations, 5-on-5. I think he'll definitely be getting all of the power play minutes first unit. And for forwards, there's just the one returning player, Maxime Comtois. I didn't see the pre-tournament game too much against the Slovaks, but against the Swiss, he got 4 points in that game. So he's playing on the first line right now with Cody Glass and Owen Tippett. So that first line is going to be immensely important. And I hate using the excuse like, oh, look at who we're missing, blah, 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 blah. But Canada's missing some fucking talent this year. And
they are.
It pisses me off.
Trey Fix-Woletsky, the big one that didn't even get called to camp.
Yeah, there's more than that, though. Like Robert Thomas and Michael Rasmussen. Those 2 guys are playing in the NHL. They weren't released.
AHL. Robert Thomas is an AHL already. Oh, wait, no. Wrong player.
And the other one is Alex Formanton. He would have been a player. He got injured in a pre-tournament game against like university players or something like that. So he would have been like a top 6 player.
He's on the roster.
He won't play.
He's not playing. They announced last week he's not playing.
Yeah, and
Wow.
who was that other guy? God, Gabe Velarde. He is always
Yeah,
hurt.
I didn't get that cut either.
Always
injured.
hurt. But when Velarde plays, he scores at like 2 points a game clip.
Yeah, he's ridiculous. He's basically the Tyler Benson for this year.
Yeah, he's unbelievable when he's healthy. But of course, he's never healthy. So I don't know. It drives me crazy, man. Like I just look. We do this every year, but this year especially, it seems to stand out to me more. And I'm thinking, like, God, we're missing a lot of fucking talent this year.
I will say this year though, our defensive talent outside of missing Ryan Merkley is phenomenal.
Yes.
We have Bouchard, we have Dobson, we have McIsaac, we have Ty Smith as some of the key names that really stand out.
Mhm.
My only issue is I think Ty Smith's a little overrated, but that's just me. But again, I agree with you on the forwards front because we're looking at Barrett Hayden, who I really don't understand getting the call up over someone like Vic Swaleski.
He's got that draft pedigree.
Lafreniere needs to be replaced now, doesn't he? Do you know who's they're replacing him with?
Nope, Lafreniere has made the team.
Oh, Lafreniere's made the team. Sorry, I had confused with someone else. Lafreniere is actually going to be someone we want to take a look at in case we miss the playoffs and get lucky during the draft lottery time.
That's
Because we come in
next
third
year.
or second,
Next year.
we're looking at drafting him.
He's a draft -1.
2020 draft.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's young.
He's a draft -1.
Holy crap!
And you know
that's
what?
fun.
Actually, I will say, I loved watching McDavid at the World Juniors -1 year, but he wasn't as he was impactful but not dominant. Lafreniere was impactful but not dominant in the games he's played so far. But to be fair, he's played the Slovaks and the Swiss, so it's not like we're playing like Canada.
Look, at the age of was he 16, 17?
17.
Yeah, he is still putting a dent in the games, and he is taller than McDavid is right now.
Yeah, he's a big kid. He'll be a offensive producer
Juggernaut.
Yeah.
Yeah. They'll probably build the team around him next year, at least at the forwards anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's basically the equivalent of
Adam.
It's basically gonna be the equivalent of McDavid in his draft year.
Yeah.
Sorry, Aaron.
All right, Adam, your thoughts on key standouts in the roster?
I mean, I think it's the big players. I definitely think we're missing some talent, like you guys mentioned. But I mean, if you look at Nick Suzuki, he's playing second line minutes. He should put up points. And the top line has looked really good so far. Cody Glass and
Owen Tippett.
Oh no! I was gonna say Matt Comtois have had really good chemistry so far. Noah Dobson, Evan Bouchard, I believe, are both on London Knights together, so they've been quite good so far. And the only concern I have right now is our supposed starting goalie, Mike DiPietro, was terrible against the Swiss. We played sloppy, but he let in a couple goals that just should not have gone in. Ian Scott, however, who got signed by the Leafs this month and everything, it played really well against the Slovaks from what I saw. I saw about half the game. So, goaltending is always a concern for Canada. I don't think it's ever really been a sure thing since Carey Price. But it's
that year where we had Carter Hart. Carter Hart was
true. Carter Hart.
He was really fucking good.
Starter Hart. He's been it's been spotty. It's always been spotty, but that's the World Juniors. I think the key this year is going to be the offense, but the defense not being half bad is going to be a bonus. Because the thing is, our defense right now is built for offensive contribution as well.
Yeah, I feel like the defense should hold up their end of things. It's just I'm wondering if the forwards are deep enough. They should be fine, but who knows?
Now, who should we watch from other teams?
Well, I was going to
who's the Finnish guy? Kakkonen?
I was going to kind of dip into who other teams are missing.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's do that first.
I think the number one that should be at the top of everyone's list is obviously the Swedish defenseman Rasmus Dahlin, picked first overall in the draft last year by the Sabres. He is doing quite well in the NHL so far, and he was not released for the tournament. Can't blame the Sabres for that. He's pretty much like already their number 2 behind Ristolainen. So, yeah, so he won't be there. And then Finland is missing Jesperi Koskinen, who is the forward with Montreal, and Miro Heiskanen, the defenseman with Dallas. Heiskanen, honestly, I didn't really hear that much about him before he got drafted, and he came to the NHL this year as a rookie, and he's fucking unbelievable.
Yes.
So good. I'm not surprised whatsoever that Dallas didn't release him because he's unbelievable. And then for the United States, the only one that really stood out in my mind was Brady Tkachuk, who was picked 4th overall by the Senators. He is a shit disturber. He is exactly like his older brother Matthew, and every single team in the NHL would want to have him. Mm-hmm. So
he's not like Matthew in terms of actual production, because Matthew is the guy that derives his own production. But with Brady, you put him with someone good, he's going to play well.
You know the games
right now, his compliment right now is Duchesne, and that's what he's feeding off of.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I can go.
I mean, so in terms of players to watch, other than the obvious and Kapanen and Hughes, who is there anyone else that stands out to you?
I think for the Swiss, I think this one's a I'm really throwing out a name there right now. The big guy to stand out for that team will probably be Eric Brandstrom. He looked good in preseason games with the Golden Knights before he got hit illegally and sent into the boards and had a concussion. But he's back and he's playing and he looks good, and that'll be someone to watch out for. But I think 2 of the players that are going to stand out is Jacob Olofsson and Philip Hallander. So I always forget the name of this league. I think it's the Alvesen. It's the league below the actual SHL, like main league in the Swedish league. The funny thing is the pick rate in that league among like prospects is fairly low, but it's approximated that 1 in every 3 prospects that are picked from that league in their draft year make the NHL rosters. It's that freaking high. Patterson is an example. Dahlin or whatever his name is, the Swedish guy for the Canucks, is another example of that. They're both players that have played in that league, along with Laine. Puljujärvi is another example. But Philip Hallander and Jacob Olofsson, who both played for Timrå IK before they qualified for the big league, and currently, are going to be 2 guys that I think are going to sort of appear from nowhere and play fairly well. They play slightly different games, one's more offensive, one's more defensive, but they'll be guys to watch out for. In terms of other teams, obviously Quinn Hughes is going to be a big one to join his brother Jack. Oliver Wahlstrom, that's going to be another one to see where he slots in. Alexei Heponiemi, he's had a lot of luck in terms of playing really freaking well, but it's always been a question mark in terms of will this translate in terms of bigger leagues. So we can see whether or not that does. Klim Kostin, see whether or not the other teams are justified in not drafting him high. And those are some of the key names. I think the 2-3 big teams that are standing out to me for this season will be Czech Republic with Martin Nikas, and who was like player of the tournament or close to it last year, was he not?
Yeah, and I think the Hurricanes released Filip Zadina for the tournament as well.
Yeah, Filip Zadina is also in this tournament, yes. And Jacob Chirek was the highest drafted goaltender in the last draft year. Or second highest.
Is he Czech?
He's Czech.
He's Czech? Okay, I'm not really familiar with him at all.
Yeah,
who drafted him?
Pardon?
Who drafted him?
The New York Islanders. He was definitely the higher risk, higher reward goaltender among the 3 higher rated goaltenders, along with his countrymen. And who was it that we drafted? again? I forget his name all the time. We drafted him last year.
As a goalie, the French guy.
I thought it was
Yes.
Russian.
Pardon?
We drafted a
It was a
Russian
French
goaltender.
I forget his name now too. It's about me.
But yeah, and then the other rosters is in terms of like opposing rosters that I'm terrified of. The Swedish roster, that's a given. That's pretty much every year. It's not the fact that they don't have any monumental names. They don't compared to other years. It's just that it's a similar case with Team Canada, where any one of those players can rise up and match the occasion. And then you have the States in freaking a little bit of everything kind of roster. Plus they have the X Factor with Quinton and Jack Hughes, along with Catcher Miller.
My first time seeing Jack Hughes play hockey. I'm interested if
He's slowed down massively. Like the comparison right now in terms of running up to the draft year is Koskinen for the right now is playing at the level that Patrick Laine was in the SHL or the league below the SHL. I'm not sure if he's in the main or the lower league. Meanwhile, what's his name? Jack Hughes is at a production rate of Clayton Keller during his draft year.
Clayton Keller had a really good draft year, though, didn't he?
Yeah, he broke
had
records.
A really good draft year. But the thing is as good as the draft year he had, people are pointing out that he's not exactly, the Matthews or the Eichel or that kind of level of first round draft pick.
I saw an article. I think it was by Craig Button, so take it with a grain of salt. But he was saying like Jack Hughes is not Matthews, he's not McDavid. He's more along the lines of like Nico Hershier. He's not. He's a Ryan Nugent Hopkins sort of like level star. He's not a superstar. So I don't know. I'm interested to see though.
But with the emergence of what the frick is his name? Is it Capo Caco?
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, he played in the Finnish league. What the hell are people on Reddit telling me?
He's Finnish. Anyway.
Yeah, TPS. There we go. Yeah, sorry, continue.
I was gonna say because we gotta wrap up pretty soon here. Last but not least, the IIHF released a video yesterday detailing the new rule for late hits, and if you haven't seen it yet, I would highly recommend watching it. It is offensive to the nature of hockey. Basically, it dictates that the new rule in the IIHF is for any hit on a player that does not possess the puck, once they get rid of it, is deemed a late hit. I guess the goal is to prevent blind side hits, late hits, players on defenseless. But the problem is the examples they showed were very much of players that were in a position to be hit because they didn't have their head up, were in a vulnerable position because they put themselves there. They weren't malicious hits. They were simply finishing checks most of the time. Now, if it's called this way, directly by the standard of the rule, what kind of impact does this have on the game long term for the IIHF, specifically the World Juniors? Because it's not ideal in my opinion. But I'll get to that in a second. Arun, what do you think of that?
Look, they look like regular hits. They look like clean regular hits. I don't understand where the hell IIHF is coming from with their perspective on what they're trying to do. I think they're trying to approach from a safe angle, but I legitimately think it's going to be a welcoming sign to just throw the puck away and get the hit, because you're going to get the penalty anyway. Yeah. And this definitely doesn't help Canada to begin with, is usually the most penalized team in these tournaments because they're not used to IIHF rules.
James?
Yeah, I think long term, the impact could be most significant felt by Canada and the United States, because we traditionally we just play a more physical style of game, less finesse, more physical, and I think that's going to affect us the most. I don't think that'll stick, honestly. Like, how many times have we seen promises by referees and governing organizations that they're going to crack down? It never sticks. So I almost just take the video with a grain of salt, to be honest with you.
I get the implementation of the rule in the sense that if it's like maybe they're tightening the window on what is LA has deemed, so players aren't getting rid of the puck, skating astride and then getting decked by somebody. But for someone like Max Comtois, who in this tournament is going to score a lot, but is also going to hit more than almost any other player in the league in the tournament, it's not a great rule. The rule itself, to me, is basically anti-hockey. And to explain a bit further, when you grow up playing, they teach you, okay, can you make a legal check? Can you hit him, with his back not turned to you? Will you not hit his head? Will you, and then is it a safe check? Will you take yourself out of the play? And then ultimately, will it benefit your team to throw the hit? If those three aren't all checks, then you don't do it. The thing is, most of the time, if a player's getting rid of the puck and they're still relatively to play, you take them out so they can't make another play, and then you're still on your feet, you get back to the play. This eliminates that possibility. So someone, like Rune said, just dumps the puck in, you hit them, that's a penalty all of a sudden?
Yeah. Not only that, like if you willingly are not looking at the guy hitting you and you dump the puck away within 5 seconds of it, you get a match penalty, dude. That's a 5 minute.
Just keep your head down the whole
You
time.
also
apparently.
kick out that player that hit you.
Just keep your head down, and take a hit for the team. Apparently, I don't know. Now, to be fair, this has been a rule this entire tournament. It became more well known last night, and the Swiss game or the Slovak game was a bit like it was rough and tumble. It was more of a regular junior game. The rule wasn't really enforced. Now my concern is pre-tournament games never tend to be as highly charged and as penalized as regular games. So, and the referees have a tendency to call them more stuff as you get into the tournament. My concern being is we get to a round robin game that matters against the Russians or the Swedes or the Finns or someone like that, and we get penalized late game by some stupid play where they throw a legal hit and that's deemed illegal now. That is my concern with this rule. Not so much that they're trying to reduce late hits.
Yeah, gives them like plausible deniability ahead of time.
Essentially, it's the referees now have a tool to say, oh well, no, that's actually in the book. I'm calling it properly instead of going.
TSN, because James Duthie, or I always forget how to pronounce his name. He's going to be the host for the World Juniors on TSN. He did a Reddit AMA recently. Or AMA, and he said he was asked, do you feel the IIHF is taking things too far with the new late hit rule, like in terms of game safety and everything? And he said, it's a great question, but you have to see how it's enforced. I think that's what it's going to come down to. It's just, are they going to enforce it like they do in the video? Because if they are, as he says, I think it's going too far. If it's clean hits finished milliseconds after the puck is gone, is penalized, then it's no good.
Yeah.
We got to be looking at a second minimum.
Mm-hmm. I think right now the given is 2 strides. I think it is it's like a 1.2, 1.5 seconds, something like that, to hit them. And it doesn't seem like a lot of time, but when you're moving at 30 kilometers an hour, it's a lot of time. I think the rule right now, the given rule is 2 strides. I'm pretty sure, which is more than enough. Anyway, last final question, quick question. Arun, does Canada win gold?
With the new hit rules? I don't think so.
James?
I think it's Sweden's.
James?
I think Canada does win gold. I think that I have nothing to back this up. This is just a gut feeling. It feels like a down year for talent across the board, and I feel like we will win.
Betting against Canada at home is never a good bet, so I'm going to go with the favorites at home. I'm a little bit biased in that regard. And
I mean, every other year we're playing at home, Adam.
I think Russia's going to be good this year. I think Russia will be good this year.
That's a roster everyone usually overlooks just because we don't know much about it.
Yeah, I think that they will be good. But I think Canada will win. Yeah.
Yep, I'll take that bet. So, my name is Adam, otherwise known as Street44722. I have Arun, otherwise known as Arunatic5, and James, otherwise known as James McCartney with me today. and we'll be wrapping up. We'll be back in a couple of weeks, so enjoy your Christmas and New Year's.
Happy holidays.
Holiday you celebrate. Enjoy your family. Enjoy the Christmas season. And
yeah, make love to your family, people.
And don't forget Boxing Day, Canada versus...
Denmark, is it?
I think so. This is the first. I should research that first.
Usually the
pretty
first
sure
one's
it's
like
Canada
a
versus
tilter
Denmark.
at Denmark. What the hell?
Yeah,
Boy,
it'll be.
That was not a good ending there. Holy hell!
Yeah, I'm just gonna end it now. While I still can.
Like, comment, subscribe.
Good morning,
people.
and to all a good Christmas. Bye.
Bye bye.